Right, let's bring in some reaction from international relations expert Brookes Spector, who's a veteran U.S. diplomat, political analyst, and founding associate editor of Daily Maverick. He joins us for opinion on Trump's remarks there. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. I mean, we listened to Trump taking credit for bringing multiple wars to an end. In fact, he says 7 wars, and he didn't get credit for it, and deriding the UN for not offering any assistance. What do you make of these remarks?
Good evening. Good to be with you. First of all, most of his, all of his speech was vintage Donald Trump. There was, what shall we say? There were moments where he took credit for things. There were moments where he bemoaned the fact that other people didn't love him enough. There were moments where he was boastful. There were moments where he was harshly critical. But there was really very little new in it, and for the most part, sadly, I guess, people will almost to a very considerable degree discount most of what he said. In the speech, there is one grain of importance, and that is that the UN isn't capable of dealing with every crisis. It isn't capable of solving every conflict, whether it's a major conflict or whether it's a tiny border war. The UN is simply structurally incapable of dealing with every one of these because it isn't, after all, a world government. It is a collection of sovereign nations who pledge to do things and sometimes do and sometimes don't. But to some considerable degree, I think that we just have to accept that this is Donald Trump's modus operandi, the way in which he behaves. We're now becoming relatively familiar with or acceptant of the fact that almost all of his speeches are going to have the same kind of texture. He even used this speech to criticize his predecessor, which is something you just wish at some point he would simply stop doing. And you know, the homilies about his wife and himself tripping on an escalator or not tripping on it, you know, we can all do without this. He also, let's keep in mind, he did speak rather longer than the time in the schedule that called for his speech. I think it was just about an hour's worth of a speech, and his time allotted was, what, 15, 20 minutes? So he went on a bit, but there isn't a whole lot that we can hang on to as something that is we can take away with it as a real investment in future international relations issues. I mean, it's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, he did mention that his wife is in great shape, and that she is, but he also claimed that Europe is in serious trouble over migration. I mean, What does this statement reflect in terms of policy and integration challenges that Europe is genuinely, at this moment, grappling with?
Part of that comment, or those comments actually, about immigration in Europe, to some degree, those are being used as a comment for domestic consumption in the United States, because one of the key issues that Donald Trump has been hammering away at is immigration from unbridled immigration from other countries into the United States, and the lack of border control by his predecessors and so forth, and that he has been bringing order out of the chaos. And so then by reflection, the fact that Europe has been unable to stem all of the in-migration from other parts of the world signifies to him a way of saying, see, we're good at this, you people can't manage.
And he also insisted that the world must end what he said is the failed experiment of open borders. How does that then align along the lines of global realities of interdependence, trade, migration, as he made that comment?
Well, I mean, all 195 countries in the world, depending on how you count them, they all have border controls of one type or another. Some of them are very carefully and significantly enforced, and others, obviously by circumstances, have less control over their borders. And some of them have seriously aggressive control over their borders. But border control and the totally free migration of people is different than greater economic integration. I mean, you can trade goods and services without people moving. And in fact, in our world today, lots of that happens without anybody moving anywhere. You and I are talking right now electronically, and I could be in Fiji for all it matters. We'd still be carrying out the same conversation. But part of the challenge for the globe is to somehow figure out a way to regularize and routinize the migration of people, especially out of conflict zones or out of economic crises or natural disasters, because so many of the people who migrate into Europe are fleeing economic challenges or crisis zones in which they were shooting. I mean, go back 20 years and people were fleeing the remnants of Yugoslavia into Germany and other countries in Europe because of the chaos of the conflicts there. People fled Libya, but most of those people weren't Libyan. They were people from various parts of northern and Central Africa because of the economic and political and violent circumstances in their countries. People leave countries in Latin America heading to the United States because they are in search of more stability or economic possibilities, or because they think it's a chance for a better life for their families. Figuring out how to manage all that in a way which doesn't require mass troops on borders is one of the preeminent challenges of our century.
How do you think, as we wrap this discussion up, how do you think Trump's statements affect the U.S.'s credibility? I mean, is there a risk at all that America becomes more isolated from its traditional allies?
Well, I think that process, in some ways, is already ongoing, whether or not Donald Trump showed up at the UN at all. Yeah. Because I don't think anything that he said today is something that, in one way or another, the Western allies in Europe and elsewhere haven't already heard, either by word or deed. What this was, of course, was to a larger audience. And he had more time to say it publicly. But quite honestly, I don't think there was anything in there that other countries don't already know is his view about the way the world is put together or should be.
Yeah, very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for speaking to us this evening as we wrap up that discussion with international relations expert Brookes Spector.